Hi, my name is KJ Walton. I am the face behind Growth Mindset by KJ Walton. I have been very interested and passionate and working in the field of mindset for about the last 9 years. It was not a journey that I realised that I was embarking upon, but it has been an incredible journey. I started off working. Well, I'm a teacher, and I started off working with the mindset principles in the classroom, wanting to get that kind of culture involved in my classroom. So not just to talk about bits and pieces every now and again, but to actually live it and create that culture in the classroom. So I've been working for a long time in continuing to do that and trying to find new ways of doing that. As part of that, I started writing my own children's books, children's stories, picture books, where I developed this character called Fortitude. And he has been on a couple of adventures so far. There is another picture book in the pipeline. So the first book is called I Can't Do This Yet, or I Can't Do This. He finds the word yet on his journey. So it's about talking to children about the idea that it's not that you can't do something, it's that you can't do it yet. You haven't put in that learning to be able to get to that yet. And that was then followed by A Muddle of Mistakes, which is all about making mistakes. The character Fortitude is still in there, and in this book he is surrounded by his mistakes who look like that. And it's about his learning of the fact that actually they're good things to make. They don't need to be frightening little characters. So both of these books, part of the thinking behind putting them together was I'm trying to create this feeling about thoughts being joyful, about connecting with our ideas and listening to our thoughts. And it's not really sort of spelt out, but it could be that he's floating through his own mind, the exploration that he's going on and discovering his own mindset. So that's the storybooks. But I then discovered that because I'd been working with the mindset principles, and quite early on down the line, there was not a lot of materials out there for schools to work with. And I suddenly realised that I got a whole wealth of sort of activities that I'd put together myself that you could use to be able to instill a growth mindset culture in your classroom. And that was then the birth of this book, which is a guide for Key Stage 2 teachers, Key Stage 2 in the UK. And it's called The Mindset Melting Pot. So it's lots and lots of different ideas that you can use to get mindset started in your classroom, and then ideas to help keep it sustained over a period of time. So that is the books. There is a new one that I have just written, and it's just in the copy editing process and is being produced at the moment, and it's going to be called Mindset Guardian. And that is, I started writing it before I had my daughter, and then I finished writing it about 4 years later, after her birth, because there was so much more information that practically I could bring to the book, having become a parent myself. So I started off writing from a very subjective point of view, because I knew the research, I knew about working with children with it, and I understood what the research meant, and how you could apply that to parenting, and from a teaching perspective, what's useful for to be going on in the home around mindset that supports what we're trying to do in schools. So that's where it started, but then obviously becoming a parent myself, it added a whole new dimension to it, and bringing up a baby and then a toddler, and trying to sort of train myself in those important things that you do and the important things that you say to children that actually do start to drive their mindset later on. And because I'd done a lot of research, I knew about all of that. So I was actually really grateful that I had been on that journey before I had my daughter. So those are the books. That book can also be used not just by parents. It's very useful for parents, but anybody wanting to instill that culture around children, and even to develop your own mindset. Those sorts of people would find the book interesting, I think. So that's something to look out for, and I will advertise when that's available on my website and on social media platforms as well, a link to the website. So the website is growthmindset.org. So growth mindset being all one word. Okay, so other things then to tell you or to talk to you about is why I think growth mindset, or mindset as I like to refer to it, because there are two different mindsets that we're talking about in relation to this philosophy. It was a philosophy that has been coined by, or the terms growth mindset and fixed mindset have been coined by Dweck, Professor Carol Dweck, who you probably will know about if you know something about mindset. There's so much information on the internet if you put growth mindset in as a search term, so you'll be able to find out about Professor Carol Dweck. But basically, in the Mindset Melting Pot, I was trying to condense what the theory is all about, because one thing that Carol Dweck doesn't do in her book Mindset, which I happen to have behind me, is she puts it all in a very good theoretical form, and you hear about the studies and the anecdotal evidence that go behind her thoughts and ideas, but she never actually puts it into any sort of framework to work with people on it with. And I think the first thing that you need is to have an understanding of what the different features are of having a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. So what we're trying to do is get more into the growth mindset than the fixed mindset, because ultimately if you are in a growth mindset you are going to achieve more, and if you're in a fixed mindset you're going to achieve less. And it's not that you are one or the other, and I think in the initial stages of her research having come out, one of the difficulties and one of the problems that has been kind of looked at was the fact that people were seeing you're either a fixed mindset person or you're a growth mindset person, and it's not that at all. We are all very, very capable of falling into both mindsets, but it's knowing about them that gives us that element of choice when we realise that we've fallen into the fixed mindset, to kind of change some of that behaviour and realise that actually it's not helpful to our learning. So this is a learning theory, and everything about it is about us making progress and moving forward, and it stems from the idea that the brain, I've got an illustration here that I use with children in the Mindset Melting Pot, and it's using the idea of flowers. So if you think about a flower and having its seed at the bottom, the seed of the fixed mindset is that my brain is as it is, it can't change and it can't develop. I'm born with what I've got. And obviously that's, you might not realise that you've got that thought in your head, but everything around you starts to kind of hone those beliefs. So the consequence of that is that it can lead to really damaging thoughts and behaviours as an offshoot. So if you've only got a certain amount of intelligence, you want to make sure that you're projecting that you've got a lot of that you're quite a clever person. So you're wanting to prove how clever you are at all costs. So that might mean cheating, lying, hiding results, not sharing information. You want to be seen as top dog. You want to be seen as flawless. You mustn't fail. And those things, you want to be flawless straight away. You can't go through that process of learning or being seen to put in effort, because if you're putting in lots of effort, you're obviously not naturally clever. So you mustn't show that you're putting in effort or show that you're flawless, and you've got to prove yourself over and over again to show how clever you are. You're not going to try anything too difficult that you might fail at or make mistakes, because that shows that you do have flaws. And that means that you're probably not going to tackle challenges, because if you tackle challenges, you're likely to make mistakes and have setbacks. And you're going to stick to what you know that you can do. So you're in your comfort zone all the time. And that ultimately, and what I've tried to show here with this arrow, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you're behaving in those ways, then you're not going to grow your brain or your intelligence, and things aren't going to change. Things will remain pretty static. On the other side of the coin, there is a more positive way of looking at things, and you guessed it. That is the growth mindset, which I'm using a much more positive looking flower. We've got a sunshine going on there. And again, we're using the seed at the bottom as the foundation of that mindset, which is that the brain can develop and it can grow and it can change. And through neuroscience of recent years, we have now seen over and over again how the brain can change through practice, through firing neurons across pathways to connect those neurons and create understanding. And the more that is done, and the more deliberate sort of efforts and practice that we put in, and making mistakes and reflecting on those mistakes, your brain is active, very active during all of that, and that is what's going to help you to learn new things, which is obviously going to make you more successful at whatever you're trying to do. So if you have that belief system underpinning your life, and that obviously is going to come from the people around you and what they are perpetuating, you're going to believe that you can grow by trying new things and challenging yourself. And you know that you can grow when you try hard things. You have that appreciation and putting in effort, because you know that effort makes you smart and talented. You're going to take little steps because you know it's going to take time to get better at things, but it doesn't matter if you make mistakes along the way, as long as you learn from those mistakes. Failure is acceptable, again, as long as you reflect on it and think about why something's failed. And it takes time for potential to flower, but you're willing to put in the effort to grow yourself. And then this arrow here is the growth and learning. So if you put in effort, practice, perseverance, so keep going even though things are difficult, by finding new strategies. If you make mistakes, all of those things are going to help to eventually lead your brain to grow and develop. So again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So from that, and going back to Dweck's theory, I wanted to think about how you could put the features in a way that children could grasp and understand. But I don't think it's just something that's useful for children to understand what the mindsets are all about and those behaviours that are going to lead to the growth or fixed mindset. I think it's very useful for adults. So in a fixed mindset, you avoid challenges. And hopefully the flower diagram will have explained the reasons behind these things. You see the world as fixed, so things can't be changed. You ignore feedback. You hate criticism. You hate making mistakes. You're threatened by success. You believe that intelligence stays the same, so it can't be changed. You give up easily. See effort as pointless. Setbacks are failure. Putting in effort shows that you're not smart. And then in the end, that will lead to you achieving less, but that's not what you believe. So the growth mindset, each of these features have an opposing growth mindset feature. So it's easy to kind of pair them up to remember them. So in the growth mindset, you love challenges. The world can change in your eyes. You use feedback and you learn from criticism, you learn from mistakes, you're inspired by other people's success rather than being threatened by it. Your intelligence can develop, that's how you see things. You should keep going and persevere, especially when you're hitting setbacks, but just maybe find a different strategy. Don't keep repeating the same thing over and over again that's not working. Learn from setbacks, putting in effort makes you smart, and then ultimately that's going to help you achieve more if you put in all those different behaviours. Now the difficult bit obviously is putting all that into practice. You can know it, you can understand it, but it's how that is developed in everyday life. So there's no point in just talking the talk, you've got to walk the walk at the same time. So what I would like to do and what my mission is to try and get more understanding about what constitutes the different mindsets, because I think it's very easy to simplify it into try harder and you will reach the goals that you want to reach, or you can do anything you want to do. It's more subtle than that, and hopefully in my exploration of mindset with you, you will start to see, and without realizing, you will probably start to pick up things that happen in your everyday life where you see these things in action, and that is then the first step to actually altering things. So I hope that that is a good introduction to what mindset is and what I am going to be opening up in these videos and accompanying blogs. Do get in touch if you have questions. I have done quite a bit of training around mindset ideas, and recently I've just been into Cambridge University Faculty of Education to talk to their PGCE students about mindset and getting it in the classroom, because if we can create youngsters that can develop these skills kind of early on and get them kind of embedded so they're more automatic, the better chance we've got of getting individuals who will kind of not suffer in the face of setback and adversity later on. And, you know, we can deal with our mental health really well using this tool, because it's a tool that allows us to think about our thinking. It's about metacognition in action. And that is hugely valuable for all of us, but particularly in schools at the moment with children. So I do hope you enjoy joining me on this journey, and I hope to meet some of you perhaps maybe in the future. Thank you.